everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Forbes Flash. King of philanthropy Bill Gates made headlines this week with another major donation. Filings revealed that back in June, he gave $4.6 billion in Microsoft shares to his personal charity, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The world's richest person also announced a new campaign to stop the spread of malaria. Here's the 3 things you need to know from this past week. To start on a high note, this week we released the earnings of the world's highest paid actresses. At the top of the list, Emma Stone, who pulled in $26 million over the past year. She's followed by endorsement queen Jennifer Aniston, and then Jennifer Lawrence, who held the top spot on this list last year. Next up, text messages made newly public via court filing this week reveal a close relationship between Uber co-founder Travis Kalanick and Anthony Levandowski, the former head of Uber's self-driving car program. The latter was fired after allegedly stealing confidential tech from Google. Among the texts, "We're going to take over the world, one robot at a time." And finally, a federal judge this week ruled that Costco owes Tiffany & Co. a settlement of $19.4 million for selling diamond rings labeled as Tiffany. The legal battle has been going on since Valentine's Day of 2013 and is a hint of what's to come as mass-market retailers continue to gain ground on legacy brands. When she landed on our 2017 30 Under 30 list earlier this year, Hope Hicks was the press secretary for Donald Trump's White House transition team. This week, the 28-year-old was named the White House Interim Communications Director, replacing a spot that's been left vacant since Anthony Scaramucci left back in June. The much-talked-about solar eclipse is almost here, and Americans eager to catch a glimpse of totality have booked travel, made camping plans, and more in preparation. But what should you do during the actual eclipse? First and foremost, don't waste your time trying to take a picture. Professional photographers will capture the brief moment better than you can. Also, focus on more than just what your eyes can see. During totality, the air temperature will drop, birds may fall silent, and more. For more about how to experience the upcoming eclipse, follow Forbes Sci on Twitter. Joining us now is Forbes staff writer Maggie McGrath, who is here to discuss the abrupt end of President Trump's advisory council. So, Maggie, you've been covering these since the very beginning. Can you tell us how the 2 councils came to be?
A few weeks after the election, then President-elect Trump and his transition team announced the creation of the Strategic and Policy Forum, which is a bit of a mouthful, so we'll just call it the Strategy Forum. It was headed up by Blackstone Chief Steve Schwarzman, and it tapped some of the nation's most powerful CEOs. Pepsi's Indra Nooyi, you have Walmart's Doug McMillon, some of the most important business leaders in the country. And then shortly after the inauguration, they also announced, at this time, it's now the Trump administration, announcing the creation of the Manufacturing Jobs Initiative. And that was another panel of CEOs. You have Dow CEO Andrew Liveris, you have Ken Frazier of Merck, again, some of the most important business leaders in the country. So that's at the start of the administration, right? Everyone's optimistic about the policies that can come out. These leaders want to weigh in on policy. They want to affect the direction of the country and give President Trump their expertise. And he also campaigned on being a business-friendly president. So it made a lot of sense in a lot of ways. And then the executive order on immigration came out at the end of January, effectively banning travel from several Muslim-majority countries. And the then CEO of Uber, Travis Kalanick, under pressure from consumers, said, okay, I can't be in the strategy forum. So he was the first technically to drop out, but Uber was going through some of its own tumultuous times, so that didn't get quite as much attention as recent events have. It was quiet for a few weeks, few months. Then when President Trump pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord, you had Elon Musk, the Tesla CEO, say, I'm out. And he had warned this, right? He had tweeted at the end of May saying, you know, if the US pulls out of the climate accord, I can't, in good conscience, stay on Trump's councils. So Trump pulled the United States out of the climate accord. So Elon Musk resigned, and then Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, resigned.
So this was kind of the first sign for people that there wasn't harmony necessarily between the people who are sitting on these committees and what the administration might believe.
I mean, I think everyone enters these councils with their own opinions and hopes to put differences of opinion aside, so they can focus on infrastructure and manufacturing and tax policy and some of the policies that directly affect business, rather than getting in a tit-for-tat over climate change. But of course, Tesla makes electric cars. Climate change is very important to Elon Musk, so it made sense that this would be his issue when he stepped down from this council. And I think executives privately, wrestled with some of that, but publicly were willing to stay at the table to try to make a difference. But then the events in Charlottesville happened, and you have white supremacists marching in the streets, yelling, "You will not replace us. Jews will not replace us." And the president's initial response was there was violence on many sides. There were counter-protesters, but his remarks were largely seen as inadequate. And so on Monday morning, we had Merck CEO Ken Frazier, who it should be noted is African American, say, I'm stepping down from the manufacturing initiative, or the manufacturing council.
And Trump had a strong response to that.
What's interesting is when Musk and Iger quit in, call it early June, we didn't see anything from the president. Almost immediately after Frazier's announcement, Trump took to Twitter and directly criticized Merck and Ken Frazier and mentioned something about lowering drug prices, and it was a pointed tweet, to be sure. And of course, other CEOs saw that and thought, ooh, I don't know if I should speak out. Monday afternoon, you had President Trump go on national television and give another statement about what happened in Charlottesville. He directly condemned the KKK and bigotry and racism, and it seemed like things might quiet down. That night, the CEOs of Intel and Under Armour both had announced their resignation from the Manufacturing Council. Tuesday, we saw a few more from a labor group and a manufacturing group step down. And then the press conference Tuesday happens, and President Trump appears to double down on his initial statement, saying there was violence on both sides, and what about the alt-left who didn't have a permit and came running with clubs and sticks and all of that. And I think it renewed concerns about his response to these events. And then from the reporting that I've done and that others have done, it seems like CEOs were talking to each other Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and the Schwartzman Group, the Strategic Policy Forum, had a call around 11:30 a.m. on Wednesday and decided, like, the pressure is getting to be too much. We should disband this group. Schwartzman called the president to inform him of this, and then Trump tweeted, "I'm going to end both councils." So he preempted that a little bit, but it should be noted that the decision to disband seemed to come from the CEOs first. But the statement that they put out did attribute the decision to both the president and the CEOs. And then following those announcements, you had more CEOs saying, like, oh, I was going to quit the Manufacturing Council. So that's kind of where we are now.
So everything really kind of spiraled this week, other than the few initial individuals who had left earlier this year. What does this mean for, you mentioned Trump had campaigned as a businessman, as a CEO president. What does this mean for his relationship with the business world moving forward?
I think we're still figuring that out. I mean, I find it hard to believe that if Trump privately called some of these CEOs, that they wouldn't take his call. But Trump also has friends, longtime friends like Phil Ruffin, billionaire Phil Ruffin, who we've covered in the magazine, who he can call and has called for business advice. So I don't think he's entirely frozen out of the business community. I just think it might not be quite as public, or there might be a cooling off period before we see another photo op with the likes of Mary Barra, Indra Nooyi, Steve Schwartzman sitting next to the president at the White House.
And we'll keep tracking it as it goes
forward. Of course,
forward.
yes we will. You can read the magazine and Forbes.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us and for all the insight.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Thanks for joining us this week. Tweet your feedback to us using #ForbesFlash, and we'll see you next week. Tune in every Friday morning. Same time, same place.